Yo guys, what is up? It's Teach here, coming at you again with another video over on Ark Survival Ascended, and in this video I am going to show you how to basically triple your FPS inside of Ark. Now specifically because Valguero released, we're used to some, there's a little bit of stuttering going on and some optimization that still needs to happen, so it's really hard sometimes on your PC just to exist and do basic things. Now, there are some commands that you can run and some basic settings that you can change in order to make it a lot easier. For example, my stat FPS right now, if you run that command, it'll bring up a little menu on the right-hand side of my screen. I am running a 4080 GPU, so it's not a bad GPU, and I'm sitting at 35 FPS right now. This is on high settings. Now, if I wanted to immediately make a big difference, I can enter the commands that I have ready to go. And then even when I'm turning quickly, I'm still hitting 65. And if I'm holding still, I'm tripling my FPS into the 90s range. Now, obviously the game does not look nearly as pretty, but it is what it is. So what I've done is I've actually gone down underneath and placed all of those commands that I just entered in, so you can kind of copy and paste those and use those. Like I would copy them to your clipboard and just keep putting them in every time you join the game if you're having issues. Because it's going to give you a huge boost to your playability. Now, it doesn't make it look as pretty, but I only chose the ones that kind of take out the bare bones stuff that you don't necessarily need to be successful in Ark. It's still a pretty game. You're just going to lose some of the basic shenanigans. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pull up some of these commands so I can kind of talk about them with you guys, because they are important to know. Because if you want to do them individually, you can. You just need to put at the end a 1 instead of a 0 to turn it back on. All right, so the first one, and these are the two that probably have the biggest effect, r.fog0 and r.volumetric fog0, and then r.volumetric cloud0. Essentially what this does, it doesn't actually do anything to the base game. It just takes away the clouds and it takes away the fog that constantly exists whether you realize it or not. Those two things as a whole have a huge drain on your graphics. So if you turn those off by turning them to 0 using those commands that I have underneath, again, they'll be underneath, so just copy and paste them there. Now, another huge command that's not super important to the game, it just kind of is a pretty thing, is grass.sizescale0. This one, you can turn it back on by putting a 1 right there instead, and you have to separate them with these little things. But again, those are copied underneath, so just copy and paste. So grass.sizescale0 literally takes the grass that you can't harvest anyways. It's just a pretty thing, and it removes it from the game. Now, r.water.singlelayer.reflection.0 essentially just makes it so you don't have massive reflections on the water, which is a huge drain on your graphics, because your graphics card is essentially trying to pull different light sources from different angles in order to make that happen. So you can actually remove that pretty easily. Now, the next one, r.shadowQuality0, essentially takes it so your shadows don't exist. Not super huge, that's why the game doesn't look super pretty. If you turn off the shadows, it essentially makes it so that you can see everything, but it makes it so there's no like depth perception. Kind of, you lose a lot of your depth perception because those are 0. That r.shadowQuality is 0 instead. r.shadow virtual enable 0, also very similar to that, essentially messes with your shadows. You can turn these both back on by putting a 1 on there. This one, I'm just telling you, this one is not it's a medium impact. A nanite max pixels per edge essentially kind of makes things a little bit more, less, how do I say this? Less angly, I guess. It more rounds things out so your graphics card isn't trying as hard to get the specific edges of every little thing. It's kind of just like bypassing the unnecessary things when you set it down to that setting. And then convert ground clutter 0 essentially is just going to make it so your ground clutter, anything on the ground that's density wise, is going to take that and remove that in general. And then dynamic global illumination method is essentially just going to take your actual light sources and things along those lines and remove those, making it, again, so you have just a constant clear picture instead of having different light sources in different areas. It makes it a little bit nice. Now, gamma 3.5 is my perfect gamma. That's why I use gamma 3.5 because 4, in my opinion, is too bright. 3 can be too dark in some caves and things like that. Sorry, I had to cough right there. So I use 3.5. That's why I always add 3.5 into mine. Now, r.lumen.diffuse_indirect.allow0. Another one of the light-based things, essentially just causing so light diffuses inside of the game and it goes from one source to another. This removes that and is very nice on your graphics card to remove that. And then light shaft quality 0. That's essentially dealing with like the light shafts that exist in the game. So you see how I'm like looking at the sun right now, and it's kind of just like that yellow ball. If you have the light shafts turned on, you're gonna have like little shafts of light that are going down through trees and things like that, and that's kind of the reason you want to avoid those. Now, if you don't like how this looks and you'd rather not, you take some of those things out, you can easily do that. Now, just to kind of go over some of the things that, let's go ahead and hit that again and just show you what it looks like. So r.volumetric cloud. If you wanted to bring clouds back, you could just enter it with a 1. And you can see it kind of like we're slowly bringing things back into the game, but do you see how big of an impact that has? It's like 10 FPS to bring the clouds back in. And then r.volumetric fog. Volumetric fog 1. If I bring that back into the game, there's no fog right now, but if I was, like you saw me kind of entering that back into the game right now, it basically causes me to, how do I say this? Whenever the fog would show up, it would return, greatly reducing my FPS. Now, the next one on that list is we talked about shadow qualities. Really, I'm just gonna go ahead and go up here. And then you can see it. So grass.size scale, here's another huge one, grass.size scale. And let's go ahead and do 1 just so you can see. Now you see how much that adds back in. It only takes really like 2 or 3 frames away, but it's like those additional things that you don't need. Like there's no value to having this grass. It's cool, but as you're moving, it just causes drain on your graphics card. So I like turning that one off. But again, if you like the prettiness, just add that back, right? That's again, entirely up to you if you want to add that. The r.shadow quality, if we turn that back to 1, I'll show you how much of a difference that makes. This one's a huge one. See how all the shadows just show back up now, and we've got like different angles, and now you can see my own shadow. But it does have, like you'll notice, as I'm moving around, it kind of drops things to the 40s. So it is a pretty big one, so we can remove that back to 0. And then if you want to mess with your shadows even more, you could do virtual enable. Is it dot enable? Yeah, it's a dot enable. That's what it was. And then you'll see again, it does make things look a little prettier, and it kind of brings out those fancier small things right there. But it does cause, like you can see that I'm dipping pretty low into my shadow ranges. But see how it's like there's a little bit of a shadow instead of on the ground instead of my character and things like that. It gives you a little bit of depth perception, makes it a little bit easier to see. But again, if it's causing issues with your game, I would highly recommend just turning it off. But again, entirely up to you. Now, I'm not even going to go into the nanite pixels per edge. I'll show you some of the other ones. What did I want to show you guys? It was the light shaft quality. That's what it was. r.light shaft quality. There it is. And check this out. This one's a pretty interesting one. All right, so if you add that one back in, you'll see that kind of like now there's literal light shafts that go down instead of just that sun being there. Now that I'm staring at the sun, I know, don't do that. But it'll actually provide you with light shafts instead. Now that is a big thing on your graphics card, so taking that off is a pretty important one. So we're gonna go ahead and turn that back to 0. And see how it immediately takes all that light just quickly out of the way. But again, you can turn whatever you want on and off, so I recommend doing those things. And then some other things that you can kind of see how I'm like flying around, still maintaining well above 30. That's my goal anyways. But if we go into our tribe manager, not tribe manager, graphic settings, that's what I wanted to do. Settings, some things that you might want to be aware of. I would turn off motion blur, light bloom, and then turn off your light shafts for sure, and then save those. Those are definitely turn those off. And then the big one is, where is the DLSS? This right here. So essentially what this is, you don't need to turn this on, but it makes a big difference. If you have DLSS, it is basically computer generated AI frames. You can add those in and you can put them to ultra performance, and it'll essentially give you some frame generation. And that makes a big deal. So definitely capitalize on those, but it's up to you if you want to do that. But you can see we can basically double or triple our FPS by just making a few small changes and still make the game look pretty playable. It's not like it is unplayable at this point. It doesn't look as pretty, but it is what it is. So anyways, hopefully this quick video helps you out. And other than that, teach.